little bit of applause as well. Then, Koło Naukowe BIT. Thanks to BIT, we have this lovely venue. We can meet in a very professional place with a nice audience, and really, thanks to BIT. And our partner, Krakow's Linux user group, the guys with a lot of cables who, yeah, they are well hidden from you, but they have really a lot of cables, and thanks to them we have the streaming and also a lot of logistics around organizing the Pykonik meetings overall. So a huge applause for them. I also wanted to tell about a few things. The first one is Discord Pykonik.org. If you're not there, you can join with this URL to our Discord server. It's a quite live server with a lot of discussions, so you can not only find the information about the upcoming Pykonik meetings there, but also share some of your problems and questions about Python, and you can get familiar with a local community. And one more thing I wanted to tell about is that few days on Monday, there will be a meeting from the local kernel group from Koło Naukowe Informatyków kernel. Let's not translate this name. A meeting about blockchain one-on-one. This will be, I know that one of the presenters there will be disconnected, who is well known on the Pykonik meetings as quite an often speaker and presenter. So you're all invited. You can find it on Facebook as blockchain one-on-one. And that's it when it comes to slides, but I also wanted to tell 2 words about the competition. On our Discord server, which you can enter with this address, there is now a new channel called Pykonik66. Please share anything that you've learned recently on that channel, any interesting news, anything about technology, anything that you found interesting and you want to share, just share it there. And at the end of the meeting, the post with majority of reactions, all possible reactions, will win a competition. And the prizes in the competition, as I mentioned earlier, are 2 PyCharm professional licenses. So if you want to share with the rest with anything interesting that you've learned recently, please do that on Pykonik66. I see a question. For everyone, and worst case scenario, it would probably be a link to something about technology related, so it might be in English as well.
Great. So welcome everybody. Today I want to show you some magic with the completion of Python 3.10, which is officially unsupported. And I will be basing this whole example on CTF challenge from the last year, from the Sekai CTF, which I was playing together with Just Cat the Fish. And a little bit of background. Whole challenge was like the forensic task where we were having some memory dump from Linux, and at the end of the whole task we were given this blob, which, as we can see on the lower side of the slide, it was file PIC, so bytecode of Python. So first thought, which was, I would say, obvious, let's try to decompile it. But Uncompile 6, one of the most popular decompilers, was not able to do that because it only supports 3.9 version as the maximum one. So I've searched for another one and found the Decompile++. And this one also didn't have the power to do that. And as it happened, because I tried, it still doesn't work. Like today, we can try to show that even. I hope it will work. So, yep. Original is the old one. It's a little bit small. Let's try to make it bigger. Okay. So, if we will try to use the original one, not modified, it's not working. If we'll use the new one, so the version from like, I think 1 week ago, it still doesn't work. So, what we can do? Well, we can disassemble it, but it's boring and I'm lazy. Like, I didn't want it to go through all of the disassembled code because it looks hilarious. Like, if we'll go here, it's like a lot of things which I didn't want to analyze because I was time limited. It was CTF challenge, so I've got like few hours to the end. So I got another idea. I think I've got it from Overflow, which is hidden behind the with the guys here. So maybe let's try to delete the opcode, which is non-supported. So what was the opcode? The with except start, which the documentation says is the exception of the with keyword. Well, if we want to know what the code is doing, we probably don't need what is handling the exception. So I tried to modify the disassembly code. I've added the new edge case that if there is a with exception start opcode, just pop 3 arguments, because that's what documentation says to us about how many arguments it takes from the stack. And let's try it, because, you know, I'm a great developer, so it should work. And another opcode. So it don't work. But, okay, we know the drill, re-raise. So we are doing the same thing. Re-raise is erasing the exception. We don't need exception. So I've added new edge case about re-raise opcode to break. And nope, it still doesn't work. So what are the options we've got? Because it's CTF, first spot was only 1. That's the end. But I thought maybe there is other way. We still got some night to non-sleep and get over. So let's try another idea. We are dealing with opcodes, with bytecode. Maybe modify the binary. So just remove the re-raise from the bytecode. So I've checked what is the hex code for the re-raise. It was 77 in hex. And I grabbed through the file for 77. And I've got few values, few like multiple places where the re-raise is here. And well, this part are probably strings. As we can see, there's usage, password, and other. So I thought that probably this is not the re-raise opcodes. But there is one which is standing out a little bit, the first one. I still think I was lucky that I got it on the first try, but I modified it. So I just patched the file to include no opcode, so no operation. And that was that. I can also show you live, because I think it should work. So the patched version. And we've got the compiled Python. And right now we see what was the logic here, and we could continue the whole task, which was obtaining the private key from the BTC or Ethereum wallet, if I can remember correctly, based on mnemonics. But well, that's all from me. So thank you for attention. And if you want to, if I want to read the whole blog post about the whole task with everything and with details, links to documentation, etc., you can get into my blog with this QR code. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, so the whole task, as I was saying at the beginning, was the forensic task. It was a memory dump. The first thing was, I think, the first flag was somewhere in the files. And that was like the second part. Wait, get me to the beginning. Yeah, it was later part when we were analyzing the working processes. And it was used with Netcat. So I just dumped the content of it, and that was like the last part, nearly last part of the task.
Another question. Last time, like 2 weeks ago, I had to do something similar for a university project. And I used an online decompiler. Have you tried it? And could you recommend some?
To be honest, I don't remember. It was 1 year ago. I'm not using any specific one right now. I'm rather using the local tools, especially that if it's part of, for example, my job, I cannot use any online ones. So I cannot recommend any. I think I was trying during the competition, but probably that's why I ended with this method, because it doesn't work also.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think that's all. Thank you again, and I hope you learned something.
presentation would be better. Presentation would be handled in a better environment. Sorry, that's when I want to say something without skipping a few sentences in my mind. Nevertheless, I wanted to introduce Piotr Gnus, who is not only a presenter today, but also one of the organizers of the meeting and the person who is also responsible for the streaming. So a lot of responsibilities, but he also managed to squeeze in having a presentation about f-strings today. So let's welcome him with a loud applause.
Hey, I wanted to say, can you start the timer, please? Thank you. I would like to know how much time I have. Thanks. So I want to say some things about logging without f-strings, because if you know, you cannot use f-strings like, I mean, you can use f-strings in like logging to the Python, but it's not really handled internally by the logging library like the percentage formatting is. I will show the examples in a second. So let's start with something obvious. Don't do prints, please. Do not do prints. Prints are awful. This thing right here is very awful. Don't do that. Instead, use logger. You just do logger get logging. You can actually just from logging call directly error. It will handle it for you automatically. The logging here, like that line allows you to do some fancy things with the logger, but you do not have to do it. You can do it directly. Now, why? You want to have some control about what messages go to the log. If you print everything, then you don't have in a runtime, you cannot filter it really. You want probably to provide an additional context when where the log file was thrown, etc. The logging will handle that for you. You cannot do that with print. And sometimes std out, because print just prints things to the std out, is not how you handle logs in your application. You may have some configuration of your environments may not be ready for that. It may require you to log to a file or something like that. Second thing from me, use JSON formatter. JSON formatters are awesome. That's how you use them. You just configure formatters in the global configurator. Python JSON logger, it's just a package on PyPI. You install it, you enter that line, you provide some formats. That format is a bit tricky. It's like the filter what fields should be in the JSON. I will show you a second what that means, but like besides that, this format doesn't do anything else. Why? You want some space to save that additional context that I mentioned before, like where that log happened, what was the other things about that, maybe some stack trace, etc. JSON will do it for you. Some log messages are multi-line, like stack traces. Without like putting it in a JSON in some format, etc., your log handler may not be able to parse it correctly and distinguish which stack trace is for which log message, etc., etc. You want to format it correctly for it to happen to be actually readable, and it's easier to parse, index, etc. If you throw it to some Kibana, Logstash, etc. It will be much easier to filter it if it's by JSON, because every field is indexed separately. So let's back to the f-strings from presentation title. Don't do that. Don't use f-strings. Sorry, maybe it's not very well visible, but right here is an f indicating f-string, and here you can see the variable that's actually being used. Don't do it. Why? Because it will be handled, like it will be formatted always. Like it will waste some resources, not many, but some resources every time this line is being triggered. This, on the other hand, doesn't waste resources if you are not actually using that log message. If it's filtered out by your logging configuration, this formatting doesn't happen. Like this thing doesn't happen at all when there is no when this log message is not displayed into your std out somewhere else, etc. As you can see, it's just present formatting. It's handled directly by the logger itself. But don't even use that. So what to use? Nothing. Just put all the variables in extra, put the message static, don't format it. It's a static message, it's easier to be handled later. And what you provided in the extra will be just thrown inside the JSON. As you can see, the exception, the message is here, normal message, the exception, that custom message that custom variable that I provided is just from here into the log. Every single thing that I will add to extra, it will be automatically added to the JSON in the output. That's great. You can still access it. You can still index by it in Kibana, in Logstash, in it, whatever. It's easier to look for it. It's easier to group logs by, like if you have static message, you just typed in that static message and you see all the logs that match. You don't need to throw some regular exceptions, etc., to skip variables that are in the middle of the message. It's just easier. And if it clutters you, will need to filter that out, like specific log message by the, you can do it also easier, just throw a filter that just looks for the message and that's it, you're done. Also, when we are at it, don't log multiple times. If you are throwing an error, log it when you are catching it, not when you are throwing it. Log it at the very last occurrence, or you will end up with something like this, that everything around is telling you that error happened, the error happened, the error happened. You know, you have the windows, you can look outside. You know that there is a rain, right? So remove that first line, remove any other log error when there is except and with the raise that is re-raising the exception. Just log it where you actually catch it and not re-raising it again. And don't log directly from libraries. You can log for warning, with debug, info, etc., log levels, but don't log errors. Throw an exception if it's an actual error, and let whoever uses your library to log it on their own. Just don't do it because it clutters log, like it just provides, it just leads up to this exact thing that the log will be handled multiple times. Also, only errors should be errors. If your application can continue, it's probably warning. If, for example, in the HTTP parsing handling, you can continue with the request, it's a warning. If it's user error, that is, he provided some wrong input to your application, it's also a warning, or maybe an info or nothing. It's not an error. You didn't do, your application didn't do anything wrong. The user did. So it's not an error. And yeah, as I said, validation, any validation is not an error. You throw a message to your user directly, probably you don't log it as an error because it's probably not. And some nice tricks as well. You can add exception info to any log message, no matter if it's error, exception. It may be warning level, it may be info level. You can add exception info, and the traceback will be displayed inside your JSON like that. And exception, do it automatically. If you do logger exception, it just catches the exception from the except clause that you are in, so you don't need to pass it. You can also add stack info if you don't have exception, but you still want to know where exactly the that message happened in the logs. You can just add arbitrary stack info, just add true, and it will add stuck to the call of this logger function. And okay, JSONs. JSONs are tricky. JSONs are hard to read. Do you know about JQ command line? Just use it. If you don't know, now you know. You can just, like the first, you see, this is my log file. It's just produced by standard logger with the JSON formatter, and you just use it as JQ dot. That dot is just a query. We'll look at it later, and it prints it nicely. You can filter by it. That's what this dot is for. Dot just means no filtering, but you can also filter, extract some things from it, like I'm extracting here are all the dates. You can just extract them like that. So just use it. That's it. Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
So if when you are using f strings, then performance is lower because it has been evaluated before, regardless if it's logged or not. But actually, logging is always for something exceptional. Yes, so it
not
you
always.
shouldn't use logger in some critical parts of your code when the performance is important. Yeah, I think so.
A bit yes, but sometimes you need like the info that you will always filter out. But when you need it really, then you can just enable it for like a minute or something like that and see what actually happens underneath. That's when the performance of logging may be actually a problem. And as I said, this example is much worse than this example. Not by like huge margin, because f strings are still faster than other formatting, but this formatting actually doesn't happen at all. It's just like you provided arguments and it's a no operation underneath when you are not using this log message anywhere. So you're not throwing it to a file or to the std out, it's just skipped.
Okay, but now the question, if you have some, like, for example, function call in the arguments, is there any way to not evaluate this function if the logging is not going to happen? Because in C++, for example, usually you use the some static.
Yeah, there maybe are some methods with some custom filters, etc., that will just know what to call, and you just don't call that function. You pass the function and parameters like separately or something like that. But it's a custom solution. You need to probably engineer it on your own. It's possible, but like it's not built in.
Do we have any other questions?
Jest włączone.
So maybe I must have missed it, but how do you set that logger up? Do you need to set up some kind of formatting, or do you just pass a JSON and it switches to formatting as JSON?
Sorry, I missed that. Probably not here, not here. Oh, no, it was here. You just configure, like you configure the whole logging ecosystem or the logger itself by special dicts. If you have that dict, you just pass a formatter and then use it in your settings. Below, there's some additional configuration, like you need to set the formatter to JSON for the main logger, and that should work. I don't have that fragment on my screen, but you just use that package and use it as a formatter for a logger configuration. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions?
Okay. I have one question. For the use case where you have a script that just processes a lot of repetitive information, it's a very common practice to just log like processing line X out of 10,000. Would you consider having that as JSON logs as well, or just if that's something useful, maybe not?
That's probably not a log. That's information for the user of that script. So that's not logging. You just have it in the output as the standard output of your script. So that's information for you, not for the log system, not to save it somewhere,
that can
right?
be an automated script that is running through cron.
If it's automated, probably as an info, and you can filter out it later, etc. But there may be more advanced things to do, like for status tracking, etc. For that. That depends on the case, probably. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any last minute questions? So I guess that's it. Thank you for your presentation.
Good.
Raz. Okay. Tak. Raz. Dobra.
Introduce the next speaker, Piotr Piątkowski, who would tell us a few words about LangChain and LangSmith. Let's welcome him with a Long applause.
Okay. So, hello and welcome. I wanted to tell a few words about me, but I guess there is not much time, so just 1 or 2 slides. I work for many companies, and it happens that 30 years ago I started here in university in the computer center, and it was nice times because we were building Polish internet then. So, if I could get slides, that would be much better. Okay, so not much companies last for the 30 years, but this slide was, which I wasn't miss. I didn't want to miss because, as I said, we were starting here, and I wanted to mention because I think then we had a revolution with the internet, which we didn't then realize that it will change world so much. And now I think we are facing another revolution with the AI. So the topic which I'm going to talk about today. And quickly, what are LLMs, so large language models? In short, it's just a software that takes some text and generates some other text. It tries to simulate what would be the most probable answer. Usually they are trained for conversations. Yes, so you probably know GPT, which I'll be also using now for the demo. And GPT is getting some messages and it generates some answer. What maybe you don't realize when only using, it's totally there's no context. Yeah? There is contextless. So when you have a conversation, it just gets all messages from the conversation history and it processes them in the single request. I'm talking about the API point of view. So it doesn't learn anything. Each request to the API to the LLM is single. It doesn't learn from previous answer. It only gets your previous messages and now this way it can answer, for example, your previous questions. So the LangChain is a library as a framework for using LLMs and other tools that are often used to generate the application that allow for some conversation, for answering some questions, for some programming. I will be doing some live demo, then maybe you can notice I'm using the GitHub Copilot, and I recommend it. It's incredible. It's the plugin for IDE for programming, and it just reads your code and provides some following code. Yeah? So you can just usually sometimes I'm just terrified because I'm typing I'm just typing enter, and it provides me several lines of code, and it's exactly what I need. Because sometimes it puts some bullshit, but I think it's like 80% when it's right, and sometimes you just need to only tweak a bit this code. So let's try and talk about this library. So it's just a Python library, a lot of imports, but the most simple case, we have a prompt. Prompt is some template. Yes. So, for example, what country is city located in? And we have some LLM. In this case, it's just OpenAI. This is the interface to the API, and I have it configured because this API is not free, so you have to get the token, but it's all just in environment. And then we create a chain which uses the prompt, passes it to the LLM, and then we can invoke. For example, we provide the parameter city, and let's try. Well, you can already see the previous call when I was testing, but yeah, obvious answer. You can change for something, I don't know, Hiroshima. And yeah, there is a content because it doesn't return the string, it returns the message because this is the chat AI, so it just works on the message. I will show you later how it looks inside. So we can add some, well, this is how Copilot works. Yeah, it already knows what I need here. So it's just about formatting the output, yeah. And there is some more complicated example, like we have two prompts. One is for the city, another is for, so we get the country from this query, then we ask for capital of this country. So this is some magic, some syntax sugar to get this. But in general, we get the city, pass it to the first prompt, to the LLM, pass the output. We got some string which we bind to the country, pass it to the second prompt, the LLM again, and we try with this. So now it uses two calls. And now the tricky part, because it's getting complicated, yeah, it found, it gave correct answer. We can try with Sosnowiec, for example. Oh, it doesn't even knew I didn't save. Yeah, so Warsaw is our capital. And there are more complicated examples, like, for example, I can run multiple requests in parallel. So, for example, here we have a city. Then we create the three values. City is just passed by. Country is taken from one. Population, I mentioned on the Discord, I had today an issue because LLM stopped answering me a question about population. The prompt is how many people lives in some city, and there was a problem to make it return just a number. That was first problem, but then it started. Yesterday it worked great, and today it started to answer, no, I don't know, checks some database, or I don't have an access to the real life data. And so let's see how it works now. So I'm using, also you can use some function as a part of the chain, like here, I'm just doing round trip just to get thousands, yeah. So, and another was translate to Polish. First, I was using some formatting. Also, that time I'm getting this input with these three values: population, city, country. I put the sentence from these values, then I pass it to another prompt which tells translate to Polish. Yeah? And the result is here. So as you can see, all calls were fine. But yeah, it's getting complicated. Debugging this, checking, finding which was wrong is a bit hard. So one thing I find for now the most useful in a LangChain is this. This is called LangSmith. This is kind of the logger. So if you configure your code, you just need to configure some environment. You don't need to change anything in the code. If you use LangChain, then you can you get full track of the calls. So as you can, and this is this actually wasn't interesting. This was the first one. So this was the one that was taking the country from the city, and that was actual query to the OpenAI. So this was created from the prompt, and this was result. You can have another. This was getting the population, and you can for each OpenAI call you have even playground. So you can test this, and for example change. If I remove this part, I can run it again, and I will get more elaborate answer, yeah, which is actually not what I need. So I need to specify to just give a number. You can change the model. You can even change provider. I don't know any other, but I know we'll have another presentation about other LLMs. So I'm gonna try it in the future, and some parameters. And we can go back and see. Yeah, that's just an example, maybe not very useful, but I want to show you what I built in the company when I work. We have a software that is for log management, log processing, and we are building the chat for our customers where they can go and ask some questions. Yeah, so I'm lazy, so I have some really, for example, there are some rules in our software, and I'm in the developer mode now, so I will see live, hopefully. I can see, I didn't mention, because I was only talking about chains, and I'm already almost out of time, so I will probably, if there are some interest, I can prepare longer presentation because there is a lot of topics. Treat it only as some, I just wanted to signal this. But here you can see I was in the devel mode, so I was seeing what is using, and I wanted to say, because here I'm using agents. Agent is something that you provide only set of functions. So you don't tell LLM what it should you only tell them if you need to calculate something, here is calculator. Yeah, just give me an expression and I will calculate, because LLMs are generally poor at math. Yeah, they often make terrible mistakes like adding two numbers even or something. So you can provide a tool. Yeah, if you need to calculate something, just use this tool. Yeah, and it will return back a call to this function. Actually, I can show you, because here, of course, I also use the LangSmith. So I can now go in and analyze this call, and you can see there was a call, and actually this is very rapidly evolving. So they just, I think they added just today this view of the function. So I provided two functions, the rule composer, if you need to create some rule, and there is doc search, which can be used for searching documentation. So this tool, if it needs, then it knows. If you need to answer something you don't know, just use this tool, and then with it you can use documentation. And the answer from this call is just AI said, AI just answered, use the function call, yeah? And the agent, this is part of the LangChain library, is just using this tool, and it noticed that AI wants the function call, so it just called this rule composer, which is also some Python library which I wrote using also internally another chain. Yeah, so this composer just runs another query to the OpenAI, but this is specific for writing rules. So it contains fixed documentation for how to write rules. Yeah, this is just the nice thing is that that GPT knows all languages. Yeah, so for example, I didn't have to describe how to write the Lua code, because the Lua is the standard language. I just said Lua contains Lua code using version 5.1, and you need to write the function that gets this object as an input, and you can return one of these values as an output. And then there is a lot of examples. LLMs are very good when they got examples. So a lot of examples, which, by the way, were written by the Copilot. I was just typing this comment, and the Copilot, based on this description above, was just generating the example. I only had to fix some of them when they were not strictly correct. And yeah, and then this tool returns the Lua, and the LLM takes it back. It has all history, yeah, so there was all the conversation, the result of the function that it wanted, and then he built the final results. Okay, I think it's over the time, but just few words about the LangChain, because yeah, that was, but there's a lot of pitfalls, and I have to admit, for example, when I needed to find something, I spent like 2 days reading documentation, using the source code LUG, and even sometimes I had to read some blog posts because there was nothing in documentation. There are some funny cases like here. I took it today from their documentation site, and as you can see, they already have warnings which generated from the documentation, so they don't even use their code properly. And there is a Discord, but there is nobody answering, but there is a bot, so you can ask the bot for some help, and you provide you some URL for some documentation, but this documentation doesn't work, so I talked to them. It doesn't work yet, so apologize for the confusion. So that's what you usually get from the LLMs when they have no idea. And yeah, I'm still learning about this library, so if you are interested, I can continue saga on the following Pykonics or maybe provide some longer presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, any questions?
Yeah, so I've got one correctly. And I saw that when you were showing the Logzilla example, the engineering prompt for the Lua was pretty big. How do you deal with the problem? For example, the third message from the user would be out of the context window. Would it matter or?
No, the GPT-4 is having like 8 kilo tokens. So token is more or less one word. So actually, I didn't encounter any issues with this. And the bigger problem is when you have to search documentation when you have longer chunks. And I didn't actually show it, but the second tool is using some vector database that contains parts of the documentation. Yeah, so you get the question, you search in the database which part is the best fitting, and then you provide only this part to this. But actually, this 8 kilo tokens is pretty much. I had very long conversation while testing this. And yeah, you can just provide some log, then talk about this. And I never encountered the problem with the size. And remember, it gets all the conversation. But there is also in the LangChain, there is something that takes the conversation, makes a summary, so that compresses in a kind, and then you can use this summary only for next request. To save the space and save the money, because the price is based on the number of tokens used.
Okay, so one more question. Do you have any comparison to the public models like ChatGPT versus self-hosted ones? Do you prefer one over another, or?
No, as I mentioned, I didn't try with any LLMs except for GPT.
Okay.
3.5 and 4, but I think another good thing with the LangChain is that you can easily switch the LLMs and anything you are using. So I'm going to change to try this.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Could I ask you about? Did you maybe explore the world of plugins to the ChatGPT? And maybe would you advise some plugin that will help us to make the better code instead of vanilla GPT maybe?
You said plugins, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if because plugins are for the web version of the GPT. But I don't have much experience. I was playing with something which was, I think, for the vacation planning, something like. But it was integrated with some booking system, and actually didn't work well. So and for the API, I'm not sure if you can use the same plugins, but definitely I didn't try it.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe. I just didn't try it.
Do we have any other questions? All right, there are two. So I'll go here first.
Checked if ChatGPT can give you a lambda.
Lambda like the Python code?
Yeah, as I understand it, he provides you with variables you ask of him. Can he give you like a ready function as a lambda? So
Yeah, as you saw, it can provide the. In this case, it was just a Lua code, but of course, but I'm not sure why you just focus on the Lambda.
yeah, I'm thinking about a very dynamic code which you can just ask to about a function, and then he is immediately able to execute it on your data.
Yeah, so actually, maybe I'll find, because I had some conversation. Was it that? Yeah. So I didn't. I removed this. You can use the data analysis plugin. I'm afraid that there will be no results because they disappeared after some period, but generally, oh yeah, you can see it. So it takes some data in the spreadsheet, and it can analyze it, and the analyze actually provides the Python code using Panda, as you can see, but you don't even have to look at it because usually it's hidden. You just get the results, yeah, like here. So it generates this code, it runs it, and it, for example, here gets some results. I remember it was creating some charts somewhere, but as I said, they are probably removed. Oh yeah, there are some charts. So it's also just the Python code that was then run by this web service and then generated some charts. So I guess the answer is yes, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
And of course, it's a bit risky, but that's another topic.
Can I have a question? Yeah, so basically I have two questions. The first one is, I noticed that in your application you probably store like the conversations. So I wanted to ask, do you use some classes from LangChain, like for memory buffering, and how do you actually persist the conversations?
Yes, I can even show you a code. The problem with LangChain is that finding how to do something, as I mentioned, is often terrible. Not this one, probably this one. I'm just using SQL database, by the way. I created, I'm not sure if it's here. Yeah, there's some user conversation, and there is a add message with just post. So some I'm not going to look because the code is long, but in general you just keep it in some storage. Can be SQL, can be anything, and then with the queries you just provide it with some special prompt template. This maybe I will find. Not this one, this is for searching, but in general it just injects, so the prompt has place for the some system message which tells you are agent that should answer questions, blah blah blah. Then there is a place for the conversation which you ingest from your storage, and then there are following conversation. Usually when user asks some question, then you add it, and then you add the answer from the AI. And for the new context, when you reload or something, then you have all this in database.
And do you use memory only for the conversation, or do you also include memory for the tools of the agent?
Sorry,
do you also use memory for the tools of the agent, or only for the conversation with the user?
For now, for the conversation, but I'm considering. I didn't also show there is another option in the LangChain that lets provide the feedback from the user. And I saw some use cases when, for example, LLM can use some kind of the scratch pad, some notepad, when it can put his notes from the conversation. Yeah. And I had even nice idea, but didn't try it yet, because sometimes user can provide some feedback, like this was wrong, this answer was wrong. Then maybe I will try to add some tool to note this, so the LLM can use this tool to note something for itself, and then it can use it for the future questions to not repeat this mistake. Yeah, it should work, but I'm gonna try it. If it succeeds, then I can tell you next time.
Thank you.
We're running out of time with questions, but I recommend to ask the questions during the snack break or during the after party. But I don't know if Piotr will join us.
Yeah, and
later.
there is. I am on this Discord.
Or on Discord.
I
Yeah, but feel free to catch all of the speakers during the snack break. They are also there, and I'm pretty sure that they would like to talk and answer some of the questions. Now, let's thank you, Piotr, for the presentation with a loud applause.
Oh.
And So before we launch the next tech talk, I hope that everyone had at least one piece of pizza. And if you're hungry, there's really a lot of pizza left, and I think plenty of drinks. So feel free to grab some on your way out, but hopefully your way out would mean that you're joining us for an after party in Browar AGH. So just wanted to remind about this one. Also wanted to remind that we will be having lightning talks at the end of this session, and that we still have an ongoing competition on Discord. If you want to win a PyCharm professional license, then please share with us about something interesting you've learned on Pykonik 66 channel on Discord. And now I'm passing the microphone to Mikołaj, who will tell us about an interesting story.
I can bet that everyone who is a professional software developer has ever worked with a code which was bad, ugly, big, and probably there was only one person in the company which knows how this code works. I can bet that many of you has ever tried to dive into this deep water and try to refactor it somehow. And I can bet that many of you have failed and drowned in this deep water, either by failing by losing some functionalities, failing to buy a time to do the refactor, introducing new bugs, or maybe after some time you started calling your new code legacy again. My name is Mikołaj Nowak, and I will tell you the story of me and my team at SpotOn, where we have dived into this deep water, and we've managed not only to not drown in it, but we've built something very stable and in a way that we are proud of. During this presentation, I'm going to tell you some steps of our journey, and I strongly believe that you will be able to take some of our steps and adjust them properly to your case and use them in your own stories. But before the story begins, let's meet our heroes of the story. So this is the story of a team of 7 Android developers, but don't worry, there won't be any technical details here about Android. 2 QAs, 1 product owner, and many others. Important takeaway from this is the story adjusted for this team. It worked for us, but if you would be taking any point, you have to adjust them to your own team, which might require a little bit different assumption and a little bit different approach. Okay, let's start the story. The story began when we realized that we have a problem. We called the Houston, and you might wonder, how do you realize that you have the problem? There is nothing easier than that. You simply have a code which you don't like, you don't want to touch, even with a long stick. But what then? I think it's good to standardize, to tell to everybody in the team what's actually just the problem. For us, it was this screen. The screen was the core screen of the whole application. Almost every sprint, we were adding some functionalities to this screen, so it was developing a lot and adding new things, and there was a lot of things happening. Like almost everything on the screen is clickable and can change. Another problem of us was the architecture. It was old, rusty, and it was causing us some issues and bugs. Okay, so we established what's our problem, but we needed to pull around a bit with our product owner because he has, of course, their own needs. They need to deliver new features, and we wanted to improve our code. So we needed to convince them that this is worth for them to let us do the refactor, because we will start delivering things quicker for them. So we will slow down for a bit, but we'll speed up later. So to do this pulling rope, we used a bug. It came from production, and after analyzing it, we realized that this is the issue caused by our architecture, and basically to fix it, we would have to do a lot of hacking and probably would break things. And we did it again and again and a few times more. Okay, maybe not that many. For some of these bugs, we adjusted a bit the truth. So fixing the bugs might not be as hard as for the first bug, but for all of these bugs, the truth was that if the business would give us the time to do the refactor, then these bugs would be automatically gone. And another thing which we used were tasks. So once the business wanted us to estimate something with this order screen, this core screen, we gave the estimation. But also we gave the estimation on how we assumed the things would take us after we would do the refactor. Of course, these estimations were smaller. And we did it again and a few times more. And after some time, we got an agreement. And business gave us time. Fortunately, it wasn't the case that, okay, now you have 2 weeks go. We had 2 months ahead. That we knew 2 months ahead that we will do the refactor. So we asked ourselves the question, can we fix it? And the answer wasn't so obviously, yes, we can. So before we could say, yes, we can, we again sat all together in the whole team and started discussing how we can fix our issues. And it was the high-level discussion, and we knew what's our problem. So the first problem was pretty easy for us because the architecture, we knew that it's ugly, it's old and rusty, and we have the newer one, which we knew that would solve all the issues which we had reported, which I mentioned before. So this was checked. For the complexity, we also used the architecture. It was a bit harder, but we decided to use the architecture, but multiple times. So we divided our complex screen into smaller sections. We identified some that might work independently and make them work separately. Of course, there was some communication layer to build, but I don't want to go into details here. Okay, we knew what we want to do in high level, but we still had a lot of code which nobody knew by heart, because there were 7 developers, and we wrote it almost every sprint, adding to that. So there was no one who knew every tweak of the code we just created for our client needs. So in order to not lose any feature that was requested earlier, we decided to read all the code, and I volunteered for that. I read every line of the code and documented it into diagrams. It were not the diagrams of the of the current solution at the time, but on the new high-level one which we decided on. So this way, I also documented in the lower details our ideas on how we want to build the thing again in the newer solution. And after 2 months of my work, I created this masterpiece. And after I created it, I started nagging my team and talking with them every day for a week, for an hour or 2, and I was showing off them various parts of the diagram, and we were discussing all the parts of the solution. And after a week of this discussion, we switched from this masterpiece to this one. And then in the first glance, they might look similar, but I can guarantee you that if you would build the first one, would implement it, and then we would like to refactor it to the newer one, it will be another project, probably the same size as the one we were taking. And another useful thing from these discussions were that all the developers were involved in the process. They all knew all the small details on what we planned to do. And thanks to that, we could take all of the debts included in the project and divide our work into very small tasks and make all of the devs working all together at the same time. And for building this task, also the fact that we had everything planned, everything in our head, we knew exactly what we want to do. And other thing we wanted to achieve was to deliver things in batches to the QAs. And also, from the fact that we knew what we are doing, we could easily plan our work in the way that we are delivering patches. Then QAs could test their parts in parallel while we are developing the others, and we could go on. And after some time, we finished everything all together, almost in the same time, of course, with small delay. So 1 month later, after 1 month coding, we are done, and we are done to production. And what were the effects? I think very important one is that it took us only 1 month. And yeah, we were expecting that it can actually take more time, especially if we would take a few people to just code it instead of 7 people. And also, we cut off a lot of discussions. So thanks to the discussions on the designing process, during the development, almost we haven't discussed almost at all. It was pure coding. According to bugs, there are only 3 bugs reported by QA on the regression phase. And on production, we had 0 bugs reported to us after we went live. And what's more, we switched from 200 to 1,200 tests in the code, and thanks to that, we found a few other bugs which we haven't have them reported anyhow before, but we fixed them because of the test told us that they are there. So we have not only not broken anything, but we have improved it. And what I think what's even more important, it was 1 year ago, and after this year, we are still happy with the code. We are not calling it legacy. So prepare yourselves, and if you do, you'll code quicker, better, and spend less time on fixing things. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?
Diagrams? You showed the diagrams. What kind of diagrams were there? And were those UML diagrams or databases or tests?
I used the class diagrams because it just fitted the best our purposes. But for some other refactoring, we did a smaller one. We also used some sequence diagrams of flowcharts with the UMLs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Hello. how many lines are the previous code, and how many people go through the previous code?
Like we are building it for this current, we're building it for 2 years, and I had the stats. Like the whole code was 5,000 lines. Our biggest class was 2,000 lines, but for the test classes, it was the biggest file was 8,000 lines. So it was actually the biggest issue because we like testing and we couldn't test it properly. So we had only 200 tests for our key feature. So I know you probably seen a lot of.
How many people are reading the older code? Like
probably 7, 8 in total. I'm not sure how in the long period of time it was probably 8 people.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
Here.
How long does it take to run all these tests?
They're all unit tests, so it's seconds.
Oh, okay. I have similar problem, but yeah, our unit tests are not really units. So after reaching the 1,000, takes like 2 hours.
No, we have in project
a bit the problem. Yeah.
We have in project like 20,000 more, or probably more than 20,000. It's seconds.
Cheers. You said you've shown us the graphs, class graphs. Have you, by any chance, been using some packages to automatically graph your classes and so on? Do you have any experience in that? Because I know, and I've seen such packages would you find them useful if you knew? If
I remember I was doing that a long time ago, but for this particular case, we were documenting the new solution. So we are not documenting how the actual code works because it was mostly, we wanted to divide one view model into multiple view models, so it wouldn't help in this case. But I remember I was using that a long time ago. I think it was useful.
Yeah, because you said you wanted to understand the problem first. You had to understand the problem first to have the whole picture and then implement the new solution.
The case was more like extracting our one file, like the core file of the business logic, and make sure that we cover it while we extract it into multiple like architectural patterns. And we wanted to decide where, for example, because it's plain architecture and MVVM, and so we wanted to know which use case go to which view model, which part of our view models, which are the smaller ones. Like there were also some routing, some state, view state data. So we just wanted to decide, like from this one blob, we wanted to divide it into multiple places. And while dividing, it is easy to lose something. So we wanted to make sure that we won't have any part, any bit of the old code which is missed in the new one. So that was the goal of these diagrams.
Okay, thanks.
I have one question here. So actually, I try to find good examples that big refactors will end so quickly. So good job. And I want to ask you, do you have a plan to do it year by year, or like this process could be like repeated in yearly routine? So each year or maybe each 2 years to keep up to date your code and refactor it.
Yeah,
if it's necessary.
our goal was to not have to do it. So of course, like this, there is this issue that if you are adding constantly, then at some point it's clutter. But yeah, we are trying to do a smaller factor and clean up on the way. We are having like almost every quarter, every half year, we have like a sprint for tech dev. But yeah, we are trying to not end up in the place where we have to rebuild the whole thing at once. We can just do the small steps through the refactors.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so thank you once again for the presentation.
Thank you.
Let's do an applause. Okay, and yeah, we got the last of this written down speakers, but there will still be a space for the lightning talks after that. So I know about one lightning talks. Anyone who decided in last minute that they want to tell about something? So probably there will be just one lightning talk. Then we will tell a few final words and we will be heading for the after party. Introduce the last of the speakers who were signed before the meeting. Adrianna Tokarska, who would tell a few words about large language models. So let's welcome her with a big applause.
Hello everyone. Today I would like to talk about open source large language models that you can host locally, or you don't need OpenAI API. First, maybe not large language models, but embeddings. this is like you send text. Okay, this is like sending text to OpenAI ADA to get embeddings. On Hugging Face, you can get a lot of models for just embeddings to change text to vectors. And there are some new models, and they perform really great. They are better than the old one, BERT or something everyone remembers from few years ago. I didn't try the new BGE model, but GTE model on the fourth place is really great, and I can recommend it. So next, LLMs. Open source can go with different sizes, and they are usually smaller than ChatGPT. I suppose everyone heard about Llama from Meta. It's okay model, but now we have Mistral, and even smaller Mistral can outperform much larger Llama model. So yes, I've tested it, and yes, it's better than Llama, not only on this task, but I can recommend it. So yes, Mistral is 7 billion parameters. It's about 15 gigabytes, but yeah, why? Okay, so what are pros and cons of open source models? So first, we decide where we will host them, where it will be running. So we sometimes, not always, but even sometimes we can get a data set on which the model was trained, so it can help us to understand what it performs the given way. Yes, so hosting on premises is great for sensitive data or clients which don't want to send their information to the cloud or to the third parties. Cost efficiency for high usage. And what I think it is important. I think I don't have this point, but we have the version of the model. We can fix it, and we will know how to perform today, for week, and for month, and we want to, there will be no surprise like with ChatGPT when some new policies are made and some safety maybe measures are performed, and the ChatGPT can act different in different points of time. With open source and with our models, we don't have this problem. So, but the cons of this solution is we need to host them. So we need to find the place. We need to find the model, the right model, what that suits our needs. Model quality is lower, but for some tasks with fine-tuning, we can get even better quality than ChatGPT. We are responsible for the using correct open source license, and sometimes model claim that they are open source, but they spin off other commercial models with with licenses that limits their usage. So we should look for the base model always to check the license. And yes, next point is, yeah, it's tricky when there is data leakage, and some models claim that they perform really great, but they perform really great on that data set because they were trained on this data set, and it's not good for us. And next point is high sensitivity to used prompt. And ChatGPT was fine-tuned on large data set from users which reported if the response was good or not. With open source, we have limited data, limited possibilities maybe, and some of the models are very sensitive to prompt, and sometimes even one word can change the output, and it's not always, if you see it's the output is garbage, it's not always the model fault, but I would recommend to play with other prompts, even maybe ask ChatGPT to generate a different prompt for this task. And yes, not all models are supported for our libraries, so sometimes we need to check what we can use with given library. Okay, so but we have small models, but why don't go even smaller? So there is quantization, and models are trained with 16 bits precision, and we can approximate these 16 bits numbers with 4 bits or other number, lower number to get even smaller model with similar performance to the original one. There are a few types of quantization. Some of them can run on CPU. So if you don't have access to the GPU, I would suggest GGUF type of quantization. And if you have a GPU, you can check other types. AWQ, I think, is going to be one of the best method. And okay. And as you can see, the Mistral from base 15 gigabytes with sample GGU quantizations, the size of the model go to 7 gigabytes, and you can feed it on Google Colab. Maybe I will go back to this slide again. And the second type of quantization, bits and bytes, it's quantize the model on the fly. So it's limited. We need larger CPU RAM to fit the model first, and then the GPU is consumption is lower. But the other models are, we can save them in the quantized form, so they are smaller even from the downloading. All the models, most of the models are can be reached by Hugging Face, and if we want to go for quantized versions, the block, I suppose every big model should be there with this option. This is sample. Have my time is going off, so we for GPU layers, if we want go GGU quantization, we use seed transformers and set GPU layers for 0. And on CPU, we have for sample short question 32 seconds, and with GPU on GPU, this can go to 4 seconds, but we can even go with other frameworks faster. And you can find code with samples to run Mistral on my GitHub, samples with different frameworks and with different quantization for. And thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions? Right.
Do you think it's reasonable to develop open source large language models? Because we have some ChatGPT or Google Bard, and I think that even we could have 100 of open source models, but it's impossible to make something that will be maybe the same quality as ChatGPT. So I think that there are many people that are working on developing open source models, but every important work is based on ChatGPT when it comes to artificial intelligence models. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we should go open source. First, we don't have the control of our data when it comes to ChatGPT completely. We are sending our data there, and it doesn't matter if it's not sensitive informations. But and the second one is we use ChatGPT for a lot of small tasks. When we have models which can perform better, or we at least can have control over them, and I think it's waste of resources to run such a big model for like such a silly task where we can get good responses with smaller model.
Okay, thank you.
So I've got one question. Do you have any experience with accelerators? Like, for example, Google got their Coral AI, which is the USB one, which you can connect, for example, to even Raspberry Pi to run LLM models.
No, I didn't use Accelerate, but I'm not sure if it's used by Byte and Bytes also.
I'm not sure. Just asking if you have any experience with that.
No, but you will find also sample run with VLLM framework. And yes, this is like, yes, it utilize the whole memory more efficient and really can speed up the interference of the model. Maybe it's, I think the purpose of this is similar.
Okay, thanks. Like the accelerator is like just adding a new processor to give a possibility of running models, or rather on the hardware which is not exactly good for running models.
Okay, so
like
I
just
think
adding small GPU or something like that.
yeah. So I think with this framework you can go CPU or quantization. Generally, it's made for go smaller with the
Okay.
models. So I suppose.
Thanks.
I've got another argument why GPT-4 isn't a good choice. It's simply because it's not well documented and we don't know what data it was trained on. So in most cases when we use it, we probably face the possibility of data leakage. So in most of the open source models, it was stated, oh, it was trained of this kind of data or that kind of data. So when we test it on a different data, then we know that there was no data leakage.
Yeah, this is the point, and I think also I would like to repeat that we'll not know how ChatGPT will perform in 1 week when they find that there is some. If you ask how to build a bomb in specific way, they will find that they will block it and this can also. This can also affect our work. We ask different questions, but there are constant changes, and we have no way to know about it.
So hello. So I saw that you started a presentation with models for classification, which basically created the numerical embeddings of textual data, and then we can use some algorithm on it to perform classification or regression. So I was interested because last model I was playing with was BERT, which is like one of the first transformers-based models.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, are there like any advancements in the field
Yes.
of this? So
Yes,
could you
there-
recommend something or yeah?
I've used GTE, and it's okay, but GB, the other model, the version is 1.5, and it's claimed to be better on those leaderboards, and I suppose it can be better. But yes, there are new models from 1 month ago, 2 months ago, so it's going further also.
So
Not
it's,
only
it's like
LLMs.
a big jump, or is it a big jump from like the BERT or?
I didn't compare to BERT, but to other models, and on my dataset, when I to match question to the context, I've got 10% better accuracy. So it was quite big.
All right, thank you. So I will check it out then.
So returning to these changes in the GPT, because they have snapshots. You can use particular snapshot, but I wonder if you know if these snapshots are still affected by because maybe
I don't know what the level is the change. I suppose it's not only data and the learning process of the model, but also some code on the top of the model. I think there can also be to protect from the
so the policies and
and I'm not sure if I don't know. I'm not an expert in GPT. I mostly use open source models.
How do you decide which model to choose? Because there's so many of them, they seem to change all the time, and I don't know about any objective measurements.
Yes, so I have a list of because my main task was question answering based on documentation. So I had a list with documents and question for this document, and after reading manually checking all the answers, I go for checking the similarity between embeddings of the answer and the question, and also similarity between the context I provided and the answer. And the more similar responses to the questions, I assumed it will perform better, but the always first I checked like this, just run a few questions, run my sample prompt, because as I mentioned, it's very prompt sensitive, I would say. And sometimes you can think that the model doesn't perform so well, but changing a few words in the prompt and you will get much better results.
Okay, thanks for the questions. We're running out of time, so let's thank you for the presentation with a loud applause. Okay, we have one lightning talk happening in a minute. Did anyone else decide to have a lightning talk? loud applause.
Test? Okay. Okay, so first of all, I will please accept my apologies for Polish speaking, but I'm just not prepared for today. It's just unplanned that I will talk today. So mainly I will talk about RH voice. So this is speech synthesizer that I learned how to use. And I think that it will be short and not very interesting, so we are not losing so much. Okej, no to przełączając się już na polski. W sumie jako pierwsze chciałabym was powitać jako osoba, która jest tutaj pierwszy raz. W sumie nie planowałam, że tutaj będę cokolwiek mówić, bo myślę, że no, jeszcze wiele się muszę od was nauczyć, żeby mówić sensem, ale w każdym razie ostatnio nauczyłam się treningu i jakby tworzenia datasetu do syntezatora mowy, jakim jest RH Voice. I teraz szybki taki przypominacz a propos syntezy mowy, co to w ogóle jest. To jest technologia, dzięki której to, co tam jest słyszalne na dworcach, bardzo często na infoliniach, bardzo często w jakiejś windzie, w banku, nie wiem, gdziekolwiek, no to nie musi mówić tego człowiek, tylko mówi to automat. Są mniej lub bardziej neuronowe, sprzętowe, programowe, stare, nowe i tak dalej, ale nie będę całej typologii tutaj wymieniać. Ale głównie skupię się na tym, jak to działa. Działa to tak, że najczęściej w tych nowych typach jest po prostu nagrywany jakiś tam głos lektora, który jest najczęściej dzielony po prostu na kawałki, czyli najprościej na zdania. I jest transkrypt, dzięki któremu synteza wie, co ten lektor czyta, w sensie no, silnik generujący tą syntezę. I teraz pierwsze, co się dzieje, to jest segmentacja tych konkretnych zdań, czy wyrazów też czasami, na konkretne fonemy, czyli na konkretne głoski, które wypowiada lektor. Czyli teraz jak ja powiem słowo właśnie lektor, no to segmentacja wyjdzie mi L, ale takie, które występuje przed literą E, czyli takie zmiękczone troszkę, takie L. Później jest E, później jest K, później jest T, później jest O, a później jest R. No i dzięki tej segmentacji mamy pełną listę i różnego typu wymowy wszystkich fonemów, które znajdują się w języku polskim. Następnie jest określona przez różne metody częstotliwość zerowa głosu ludzkiego, czyli zakres skali, od której po prostu najniżej głos mówi, do tej, w której najwyżej głos mówi, mówiąc tak obrazowo bardzo. No i dzięki temu właśnie synteza też wie, jaki jest ten zakres, żeby się nie łamać, bo jeżeli zakres zostanie źle ustalony, to będzie synteza chrypiła i tak dalej. I na końcu tak bardzo, ale to bardzo upraszczając, jest konkatenacja, czyli już jak mamy te fonemy i jak mamy te zakresy, to w produkcji syntezator dostaje tekst i on skleja te fonemy, które uzyskał podczas segmentacji, w jeden konkretny ciąg dźwiękowy. I RH Voice tak naprawdę bazuje na HTK i HTS-ie, które zostały już w latach 90. zapoczątkowane i są rozwijane. Ale to, co jest rewolucyjnego, jeśli chodzi o RH Voice, to jest to, że jest ułatwiony proces trenowania takiej syntezy i są porobione porty na wiele platform. Można tej syntezy używać pod Linuxem przez API Speech Dispatchera, można tego używać pod Windowsem przez Speech API, a także można tego używać pod Androidem i w screen readerze NVDA, który jest jednym z dominujących czytników ekranu dla niewidomych na Windowsa. I właśnie dzięki temu, że nauczyłam się, jak się trenuje głosy, no to jeżeli tylko dostanę jakiś dataset czytającego lektora i skrypt, no to mogę stworzyć z tego działającą syntezę. I teraz taka moja krótka prezentacja będzie nie tego głosu, który wytrenowałam, bo w sumie nie spodziewałam się, że dzisiaj będę cokolwiek mówić, tylko tego, którego używam na co dzień. Najpierw on będzie na tej prędkości, w której ja go używam, później go zwolnię, bo zobaczcie, jaka ta prędkość jest. Oj, straszne mam lagi. I teraz jak ja to zwolnię. O Jezu, straszne opóźnienia są. Okej, i teraz zwalniam.
Główny silnik przetwarzania tekstu na mowę.
O, i teraz może rozumiecie, główny silnik przetwarzania tekstu na mowę.
Głośność mowy.
Głośność mowy.
Wysokość głosu.
Wysokość głosu. No i myślę, że ten głos jest na tyle naturalny, że jakby jest komfortowo go używać zarówno przez niewidomych, jak i niewidzących, ponieważ jakby po pierwsze ma te zdolności głosu syntetycznego do mówienia naprawdę szybko. To nie jest maksymalna prędkość, zaręczam. To jest taka prędkość, nie wiem, do czytania książek, ale jak mam jakąś nudną książkę na studia, no to 2 razy szybciej to jeszcze leci. Ale tak, to jest zarówno ta wartość mówienia w miarę ludzkim głosem, jak i ta wartość syntetyczna, więc myślę, że jest to w pewnym sensie przełom, jeśli chodzi o syntezę mowy dla niewidomych, no bo też dzięki temu, że to jest otwarte, to tych głosów jest już trochę, więc każdy może sobie wybrać coś odpowiedniego dla siebie. Więc myślę, że to byłoby
ekran zablokowany.
Na tyle z tej mojej prezentacji. No i cóż, chciałabym bardzo podziękować za ciepłe przyjęcie i jeżeli są jakieś pytania, to oczywiście śmiało.
Mam pytanie. Próbowałaś może używać jakichś sieci neuronowych do opisywania, co się dzieje na obrazkach, na ekranie, na jakichś wykresach?
Już mówię. Generalnie co do wykresów, to jeszcze droga przede mną jest, bo nie testowałam, ale ostatnio, no w sumie tak ponad tydzień temu dostałam model GPT-4V, czyli właśnie ten, który odpowiada za interpretację zdjęć. I w sumie jak go dostałam, to robiłam wszystkiemu i wszystkim zdjęcia. Bo stwierdziłam, że w sumie muszę się napatrzeć na ten świat, na ten łez padł. Aczkolwiek na przykład to, co mi się zdarzyło śmiesznego, to to, że kiedy zeskanowałam swoje biurko, w sensie zrobiłam swojemu biurku zdjęcie, to no ja mam tam różne elektroniczne rzeczy. No, jest tam mikrofon, jest klawiatura MIDI, jest zwykła klawiatura, jest laptop, jest lampka nocna i takie inne cuda. I w tym wszystkim jakimś nie wiadomo jakim sposobem znalazła się myszka, której nie używam, no ale w sumie skoro w całym datasecie, gdzie była klawiatura, była myszka, no to cóż jej się nagle uwidziało, żeby myszki nie mieć? No to ja ją sobie wyhalucynuję. Tak stwierdził ChatGPT. Bardzo nie testowałam. Jeśli chodzi o wykresy i takie przetwarzanie danych i tak dalej, to staram się po prostu na tyle jakby obchodzić konieczność używania wykresów, żeby zawsze sobie znaleźć albo jakąś tabelę, albo jakiś opis, albo jakieś coś. No teraz muszę te wykresy posprawdzać, czy one mi będą działały. Natomiast na iPhone'ie jest bardzo fajna rzecz, bo te wykresy, które są tak systemowo zrobione ładnie jako wykresy, a nie jako po prostu grafiki, potrafią mieć taki przycisk właśnie dla niewidomych, który tak syntetycznie im śpiewa te wykresy. Czyli na przykład jeżeli to jest parabola, no to im robi Wszystko, o czym mówię, wymaga obrazowego trochę przedstawienia, dlatego tak się wygłupiam, ale...
Super, dzięki.
Okay. Jeszcze jakieś pytania? Dobra.
Jak szybko czytasz książki? Bo pytam, bo mój syn 12 lat nie znosi lektur do szkoły i słucha sobie audiobooków w tempie tam 1,5 raza. Przypuszczam, że jakby się potrafił nauczyć czegoś takiego, to byłby zachwycony po prostu.
Myślę, że tak. Właśnie ja kiedyś na takiej grupie czytelniczej znalazłam post gościa, który był fanatykiem syntezy mowy, widzącym, i on powiedział: Jezus Maria, co to jest za kosmiczny wynalazek? Ludzie, jeżeli wy się tego nauczycie, to będziecie w stanie odbierać 4 razy więcej książek, niż odbieracie ogólnie. To jest niesamowite, to jest przełom. Ja mówię: człowieku, ja tego już 10 lat używam. Ale tak generalnie, no to jest kwestia treningu i myślę, że ja w ogóle jak słucham audiobooków, to ich nie przyspieszam, bo według mnie to brzmi zbyt sztucznie, ale no tak ogólnie jak słucham właśnie syntezatora, no to tak 4 razy mniej więcej, 4x to jest.
Ale to rozumiem stopniowo, tak? Się uczyłaś?
Tak, no zazwyczaj to jest tak, nie wiem, każdego dnia co 1, co 2, te tam słowa na minutę, bo to się w WPM-ach mierzy. No i tak stopniowo po prostu trening czyni mistrza. Przy czym też nie jestem mistrzem.
Ale robi wrażenie. Dzięki.
Dzięki.
Czy są jeszcze jakieś pytania? Dobra, to jeszcze raz bardzo dziękujemy za prezentację.
Dziękuję.
I przejdziemy do dosłownie kilku słów podsumowania. Parę sekund. Okay, thanks everyone for attending to Pykonik Tech Talks number 66. There were a lot of presentations today, and I hope that you gained some knowledge and that there will be something to discuss about during the after party and the following days. Nevertheless, I wanted to say again a few thank yous. So first of all, I wanted to send thanks to SpotOn for an impressive amount of pizza, I must admit. I think that's our top score today, and for the drinks as well. So thanks to SpotOn. Also, thanks to JetBrains for the prizes for the competition. Thanks to Koło Naukowe BIT for having this really nice venue here on AGH. last but not least, thanks to CLUG for streaming and overall help with organization. Now, where to find us? Usually there are two biggest channels, pykonik.org, our website. Every meeting that Pykonik holds is always presented on pykonik.org. We try to point with the meetings for the last Thursdays of the month. I think that's the intention for this season as well, but we will see. Also, discord.pykonik.org, another place where you can always find all the fresh information and the community of Python developers in Krakow. And about the competition, I have a Discord opened here, and I can clearly see that the Łukasz won the first prize with ice cream library. Łukasz, are you here? Do you want a PyCharm license? So get one. Okay, so just come here after we close this meeting and I'll get your email. And there's a tie, so I think that we'll go with the chronological order. Actually, that's the first other news from Krzysiek. Krzysiek Dev, are you here? Okay, do you want a PyCharm license? So you get one. So that's the news about the Excel, about using Python in Excel, which is quite cool. I didn't know that it's available. Okay, so both winners of the competition come here. Afterwards, I'll get your emails, or yeah, I'll tell you what and how you'll get the license. Okay, and that's it from us. Personally, I also wanted to say a huge thanks to everyone who was really involved into having this Pykonik meeting happening. And that is a lot of effort, and I think that's a great start of the next season. So I also wanted to say thanks to all of the organizers of the Pykonik, and I think that they deserve the really loud applause. And I will be your guide for the after party. So everyone who wants to go grab something to drink and talk a little bit more, we will be departing from here in 5 minutes. So just look for me, and that's it. Thanks to everyone.